I am so excited to be diving into our topic today. We are talking about new leaders emerging. You might be asking yourself, what are you talking about? New leaders where? What industry? What does that look like? Or if you've had your ear to the ground, you have seen it, or maybe you're experiencing it yourself. Recently, I had a conversation with a friend who has just been feeling so hungry. He's been feeling so hungry to get into a group of gentlemen that really can just speak raw and real. The amount of people I talk to that want the raw and the real is astronomical. Yet when we come together in groups, we have such a formulaic, static way of sharing, training, all the above, that it leaves no room for rawness and realness or even having people be vulnerable, truthfully. So when I was talking with this friend of mine, he recently found a group, happened to be with my husband, which is amazing. And he was talking about how it's so refreshing to have men come together with the raw and the real. Not this sugar coated, let's just pray this away. Let's just dot, dot, dot. Doesn't actually do anything for them, but it's being with them in that moment. What they're feeling is what they're feeling. And then also supporting them with wisdom to help them to be able to move forward. And guess what? There are going to be people sometimes that just do not want to be helped and don't want to move forward. Not at that time, anyways. So we get to really dig down deep and ask ourselves, A, are we in environments where we can be raw and real? B, do we even want to be in an environment where it's raw and real? C, are they even out there? And the answer is yes, they are absolutely out there, but it takes a little digging. So, with the topic today about the rise of new leadership, new leaders are emerging everywhere. New voices are emerging everywhere. I've talked about this on former podcasts. On one of my favorite things that I love to help people with is discover their real, bold, and authentic voice. One of the things specifically in this season within the last 2 to 3 years that the Lord has highlighted, and other, prophetic people that I follow, people that I value and trust in the business world, in the church and Christianity, is the fact that new leaders are emerging. It's happening everywhere. The old voices are going to dim and fall away, and the new ones are emerging right now. The biggest thing before I jumped on this podcast today that I was thinking when it came to this topic was the fact of we can't keep doing the same things and expecting different results. That's quite literally the definition of insanity. And how often do we get stuck in that? People need to be in a new environment. People need to be able to hear the raw and the real. Now, you might be asking, okay, what do you mean raw and the real? Well, we know this. Social media is everybody's highlight reel. Look how great things are. My marriage is perfect. My kids are amazing. My life is blah, blah, blah. I would love to spend a day or even a week in your home as a fly on the wall to see what it's really like. Because when I hear, for couples, for example, married couples, when I hear, oh, our marriage is perfect, things are great, we never really fight, things are awesome, I want to be like, BS. Pull out the flag on the play. Nice try. And I say that in a loving way, but like actually what's happening, because I know that your husband, there are things that you would like to see shift and change. I'm sure there are things that he would like for you to shift and change. What are those? Because if we are so blinded by the truth and we go into life with blinders on, we're never actually going to really even be living. So one of the things that my husband and I, and again, I know I'm going to have him on this podcast. We're actually probably going to have a season just going deep into relationships, because one of the things that we did, and I've shared this earlier, but I'll share it again, is we had a show when we were dating called The God-Given Couple. And people loved it. We shared the raw and the real of what we were going through, the journey that we were on, two entrepreneurs, dating, we just got in there with, faith topics, relationship topics, entrepreneur topics. All the things. And we had people from their 20s to like their 60s plus watch the show. We loved it. And then a season in our life came where we got engaged, we got married. And after we got married, we actually stopped the show. We just didn't have time. But it was actually in that the Lord was really taking us on a new journey into, for me specifically, the wilderness journey. That's going to be a whole nother podcast entirely, because that's going to be probably a little bit longer one of what is a wilderness journey and how do you get through it. And oh my gosh, buckle up. But as we were sharing our relationships, people just loved how just raw we were. And we would call each other out in a loving way. We were best friends first before we started dating, before all the things. So we were able to kind of, poke at each other, and it's fine. It's fine. People loved how raw it was. And the singles that watched, I mean, they're always like, how can I find a spouse or a partner like you? Like, how can I, and what Johnny and I did is we worked on ourselves so much before we found each other. I happened to date quite a few more people than Johnny did, but we both really dug down deep. He became the king that he needed to be. I became the queen that I needed to be. So when we arrived and we met, we knew. We just knew. And the story that I'll share probably on the seasons, there might be seasons, apparently there's going to be multiple, on the season that we'll have with Johnny is, the Lord audibly telling me, turn around, there's your husband, and Johnny's sitting right there. That's a whole nother story in and of itself entirely. But as we dig down deep, the raw and the real, let me get back on track. Obviously, you can tell I go off on different tangents. The raw and the real. We have always kept that at the center of our marriage. We've had blowout fights. I mean, blowout. My husband and I could not be more opposite on a lot of things. It's crazy to me. Different ethnicities, different upbringings. I'm 4.5 years older, personality types, how we work, how we analyze things. I mean, different. But hey, the Lord audibly told me you're supposed to be my husband, so you're going to be my biggest challenge yet. And he's also my biggest blessing. So in order for marriage to truly work, you have to get into the raw and the real. And being raised, I should say, in a family, a Caucasian family, for all the white people out there, you're going to get this. And even if you're not white, you're probably going to get this anyways, because you've probably seen this. There is a level of suppression that is so wildly dangerous in the white culture, the Caucasian culture. It literally scares me. There are so many picture perfect patties out there. Leave It to Beaver, for all those that are old enough to know what that is, that show, Leave It to Beaver, everything's picture perfect, right? And it couldn't be further from the truth. There was so much suppression on how I feel, managing my emotions, stop crying, be better, you got to be the best, blah, blah, blah. And I knew at a young age, I'm like, I hate this. I'm a feeler. I need to get this out. And I was around a bunch of people that didn't want to get into the feels, that didn't want to talk things through. So eventually I suppressed my emotions because I'm like, well, who am I going to talk to? And then eventually throughout my childhood, high school, college, I literally found my closest friends were all people of different ethnicities. Polynesian, Hispanic, African American. There's more, but most of my closest friends were of other ethnicities, because I was so intrigued with how they went about things, saw things, their culture, their family values, just all the things. So back to the suppression part. It is so wildly dangerous. We have to be able to get it out. We have to be able to drill down deep. We have to be able to talk about things. And I know that when I knew deep down that when I was going to get married, I had to be able to be my raw self with my husband. There was no suppressing that was going to happen. And the man that I was actually dating before I met Johnny, the Lord kind of gave me flashes of, if you go down this route, you're going to be muzzled. You're going to possibly be arm candy. You're not going to be able to fulfill the promises that I have for you, sweet daughter. Like, you got to see this. And I saw it. Thank the Lord. So being able to talk things out as messy as they are, because that's one thing that the white culture doesn't like. Oh, we can't have mess. We can't have that mess. We can't look that way. We got to have it look a certain way, sound a certain way, be a certain way. And on the back end, if it's a little messy, that's fine. But everybody has to perceive us like this. Ooh, people just want real. People just want real. So meeting Johnny, we really got into like the depths of the real so quickly. I mean, we were dating for maybe like a month or two. And we were talking about when we have kids after we get married, how are we going to school them? Private school, public school. And then we decided we're actually going to hire a teacher, pay them a salary, maybe have a couple students from, different friends that have kids and be able to really have a hold on what is it that they're learning. If that's where they're going to be spending most of their time and being developed, like we want to do it right. So, Lord, provide for us in that sense because that's not cheap, but it'll be worth it because that's part of their development, right? So, anyways, all of this about the raw and the real. Back to the friend I was talking about that was just seeking that raw and the real. I know I'm like doing this whole roundabout here. People crave that. People need that. My husband and I definitely put a premium on that, where we do that as much as humanly possible, or we have literally, I mean, when you think about it, actually have mentored a lot of single people, a lot of newly married people, even people who've been married longer than us. So like, how do you guys do it? There's something different that you have that we don't. And we sometimes will duke it out. We'll say things that maybe aren't the best, say things we don't mean, but we always come back to center because God's at the center of our marriage. And we know that it's so much bigger than us. Like Johnny and I knew right off the bat, we were supposed to do something together to pour into relationships to really help people break through the strongholds and the bondage that they're in and mindsets that aren't serving them. Okay, so for real, back to the friend that I was talking about that said wanted more, wanted to dig in. I had this conversation with him recently, and he was talking about how, inside of the church that we go to, they were asking him, hey, you should start a small group. He's like, I don't know, let me pray on it. And then we started digging into, just from my perspective, I definitely see your leadership. There are a lot of younger men because he's going to start a small group for younger men. And when younger men come by this gentleman at church anytime, he treats them as if they're like the best person on the planet, gives them a high five, and makes that young gentleman feel so loved and appreciated. Probably sometimes for some of these guys, maybe the first time ever. And so to him, my friend, he was like, I don't really see it. I knew I had to point that out because I see it all the time. And that encouraged him to be like, you know what? I don't even notice that I do that. I just want to treat people the way they should be treated. I want to make sure that they're seen, loved, heard, and appreciated. So I share that story roundabout as it was to tell you this. The new leaders that are emerging are humble leaders. They are out there serving and probably don't even know it. It's just a part of who they are. They're not looking for the platform. They're not looking for the glory. They're not looking for all the follows and likes and views and subscribers. They're not looking for that. They're just stepping into who God has created them to be. And this is where you get the difference, and we've talked about this before, between worldly influence and kingdom influence. God is not going to exalt the proud. He's going to exalt the humble. And so this new emerging round group, whatever you want to call it, of leaders are ones that have spent time in the secret place, have been refined, that are in tune and attentive to God's heart. They truly are. They're not worried about all the worldly stuff. And for a lot of these people, my husband and I included, one of the things that we have really experienced is a huge faith building journey over the last couple years of us sacrificing a lot. Lifestyle, finances. I mean, gosh, there's probably so much more. I'm just blanking on it at the moment. But we have sacrificed so much because in order for us to really be refined to where we are now and where we are going, a lot had to fall off. A lot had to fall off. Now, I want to shift into a vision that the Lord gave me. And this is for all my ladies out there, talking about having to be in tune with the Lord's heart, letting things fall off, because this is a big part of letting his promises come through. And for the leaders that are out there that are just like, what is going on? I was in my car having my quiet time per usual. And I'm sitting there in this seat and I get this vision of me holding a baby and I'm on a table in the hospital. Like I just got done delivering the baby and I'm weeping. I am weeping uncontrollably. Now, haven't had children yet. This podcast was recorded in 2023. Have not had children yet, but I've had a lot of friends who've had kids and they say it is emotional, right? I mean, of course it is. You just birthed a life. But it was a different kind of weeping that was going on. And the Lord ushered into my spirit and he said, we broke off so much to get here. And being 33 right now with no kids, I get asked almost daily, when are you having kids? When are you having kids? Aren't you getting a little old? I roll. The reason why I firmly believe, because that vision coincides with it, is there is so much that the Lord needed to break off myself and my husband from generational curses, bondage, mindsets, things he did not want passed down into our children. And at that moment, hands were up and I said, Lord, I don't care how old I am. Whenever you want us to have kids, I'm here for it. And it was another level of peace on my heart as to whenever our family gets to start. Now, I know this is going to possibly speak to some women out there because you're like, why isn't it my time? Why isn't it my time? Why? Because society puts us on a timeline in their own little hamster wheel because they want to make sense of it all. And not everybody fits on the hamster wheel. Arguably, nobody should fit on the hamster wheel. Everybody has their own life and their own timeline. And most of the time, it does not line up with God's. So I thought I was going to have kids maybe like 10 years ago. I wanted to have kids when I was young. And now, almost approaching my mid-30s, I'm like, you know what, Lord, as long as it takes. Because whatever you're doing in us, breaking that off, I'm so grateful that that does not get to get passed down into our kids. And whatever it is that you have in this child that is coming, wow, I don't even know. But reveal it to me in your time. Why is that important? I would have never gotten that without being in the secret place with him, yearning after his heart, laying things out before him, the raw, the real, the dirty, not, Lord, thank you so much. We love you. There's that. And there's also like, man, this sucks. I'm pissed. What in the actual heck? Like having those moments too. And my husband really showed me, like, just get raw with God. He already knows your heart. So just get raw with him and allow him to heal and reveal things to you. That is what's happening with these new and emerging leaders. Everyone has their different story, but you are going to see so many new leaders rise up in the church, rise up with prophetic voices, rise up on social media and other platforms, speaking truth. You're also going to find other people that are being raised up that don't have truth, that have a demonic agenda and a worldly agenda. And how do you figure out between the two? Which one? Discernment. How do you grow in discernment? By getting into the secret place with the Lord. Lord, show me what breaks your heart and allow it to break mine. Show me how you want to pour in and just come alongside your people. And guess what? Luckily, he gave us a manual, the Bible. We have everything we could ever need in there. And the new emerging leaders, the ones that are truly going to lead God's army through the end times, are starting to emerge right now. My question to you is, are you one of them? You might be thinking, oh my gosh, well, who are they? Could be you. And you've heard me talk about this before. Your story is meant to be mentorship to somebody else. Just like my friend I was telling you about. He didn't even think like, wait, I'm a leader? I can lead this group? People look up to me? What? Because he was not focused on the praise. He was focused on the purpose of pouring into that individual, one by one by one. Leaders get it all mixed up. I'm going to put leaders in air quotes. Leaders get it all mixed up. Worldly leaders, let's specify that. They're all about, how can you serve me? I'm on this stage. How can you serve me? When true godly kingdom leaders are, how can I serve you? One by one by one. If Jesus left the 99 to go find the one, then we should be doing the same thing. And guess what? People are going to be challenging. They're going to come with mess and problems and things that feel burdensome. But guess what? We get to release that being like, Lord, this isn't my burden, but I'm praying for this individual. If he's calling you to pray for that individual, release that burden. You do not have to carry that. But we get to have an empathetic heart for where people are really at. And when you show up for people, when you pour into them, when you listen to them, it's everything. It's absolutely everything. So I am so excited for the new leadership that's emerging. That's true leadership, biblical leadership, diving into the principles of how to be able to lay my life down so I can serve others. One of the best resources I have ever had, period, is I had a friend out of the blue said, hey, I'm sending you a book. I'm like, okay. Sends me a box in the mail. It's the John Maxwell Leadership Bible, NIV version. I will tell you, that sucker is so highlighted. There are so many amazing things about that book. I'm going to leave a link below so you can go check it out, because throughout scripture, it has these different leadership excerpts. John Maxwell is an incredible leadership expert, and he pulls out leadership lessons from the best leader himself, Jesus, and a lot of the other leaders that are in scripture. There are so many leaders that I'm discovering in scripture that I've never seen before, that were so average, so not the type of person you would see exalted anywhere. Really just yearn after God's heart and go for it. Some failed miserably, some exceeded expectation. But it's so important to remind ourselves that we're never going to know those stories. We're never going to be able to drill down deep to see what kind of a leader do I need to be, whether it's leading thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, or in my home, with my children, with my family, for all the gentlemen out there, for my wife, for all the ladies out there, to serve and to be there as the glue of the household, to lead my friends, to be the example, be the change that people need to see. Because when we change ourselves, we can change the world, because people are going to see that in us, and deep down, or maybe at the surface level, wherever it's at for people, oh, I need to change too. It may take a little bit longer for others, or it could be instant because they're just ready and they needed permission, and that permission was seeing you do it. So back to the John Maxwell Leadership Bible. I had to plug it. It is literally one of the best tools. And then onto the side of that, I have the Message version of the Bible. Then you also got the King James version. I'm about ready to get a Hebrew version, then a Greek version. I have study tools. I really drill down deep because I want to know. It's not enough just reading the word. You got to study the word. And when I got a concordance, when I got a Bible dictionary, to really drill down deep on where to find things with the concordance, but then also drilling down deep on words to see the Hebrew meaning, the Greek meaning, you actually come to figure out that the English language is a hot mess. There's a lot of extra words in there. It really is. So really drilling down deep on the meaning. So when you go read the word, there's going to be other things that stand out to you to build in context. Leaders right now are pressing into that. They're studying. They're listening. They're not doing a lot of talking, or haven't been doing a lot of talking. It's so important to have those seasons. And you're going to have those seasons. It's like, whether you want to accept it or not. You know, when I was in my wilderness season, I did not want to accept it. I was fighting tooth and nail. I was like that bratty little toddler of like, no, not going to do it. Well, after months and months, I'm like, all right, we're here. Great. What's next? Now I've learned to love it. Actually, I'm outside of the wilderness season right now, but I learned to love it in the process. And no one ever prepared me for that. No one ever prepared, hey, by the way, there's going to be a season that's really going to suck. It's really going to be hard. Have fun with that. Okay, bye. No one ever prepared me. But I said, you know what? Even though no one ever prepared me and talked about it with me, I don't need to be that. I want to talk about it and be open. And maybe there's going to be wisdom, and there's going to be something from somebody, whether it's women in my small group or a mentor or something that they can pour in. Because I was like, I don't even know. And at the end of the day, guess what? Everything always led me back to the secret place with the Lord right here in this car. Everything. I can't say everything, but majority of my pivotal moments have happened in this car. That's why I think it's such a special place to record this and come to you with it, because this is my jam. Being in here alone, just, gosh, there's just a space that I've been able to cultivate with the Lord in here. So anyways, the new leaders that are emerging, is that you? Be on the lookout. Grow in that discernment to discern who's a true kingdom leader and who's not. That's key. We'll probably have podcasts on discernment down the road because that is massive. A lot of discernment is lacking across the board. People are so caught up in, oh my gosh, you said this. Okay, we can't do that. And they don't have freedom. There are going to be things that you're going to hear from other believers that people have said, oh my gosh, that's not right. And you got to have enough freedom to know, you know what? I'm going to take that part in and I'm going to leave that out. That's not truth for me. That's not truth. Have freedom. Have enough freedom to know that when you hear things, even if somebody's like, this is truth, turn it up in your spirit. Have that discernment. It's like, is it truth, Lord? No, it's not. Okay. Doesn't mean you still can't get value from that person. I remember when I had a girl call, she ripped me a new one. I have a course, and I talked about some biblical leaders that I've gotten value from, T.D. Jakes, Stephen Furtick, Michael Todd. And she said, all those guys are heretics. They're heretics. And I said, well, I've gotten value from them. I don't know what they do day in, day out on their daily lives. But I know that I can receive value from a lot of people, and I'm not in charge of what they do on the daily. Like, there's a lot of open interpretation, right? And whenever I listen to something like, Lord, do you want me to listen to this? What do you want me to get from this? And highlight that to me. And filter everything else out. It's just like back in the old days when people mined for gold, right? They had to sift through so much dirt, and then you see that shiny little nugget. Worth it. If we're so afraid to sift the dirt, we'll never find the gold. There's a lot of dirt we got to sift through out there. Discernment helps you sift through the dirt so you can find those gold nuggets that were always meant to land on your ears and your heart. It's up to you. If you want to go sift through the dirt, go poke around. See what's out there. And I'm so excited for the new leaders that are emerging. I've seen a lot of them in my friend circle. I've been blessed by a lot of their content, just growing up with them, watching them just transform through their journey. It's going to be amazing. So be on the lookout and be encouraged, because there's a new wave coming of just new and fresh leadership that the world needs, because we can't keep doing the same thing. You're going to find people that are going to reject you because of it. Leaders that maybe once led you say, you know what, that's not truth, and get jealous, right? Like, there's going to be things that happen, because when you step into leadership, especially as a pioneer, for all my pioneers out there, I'm going to go in on the whole pioneering everything on another episode. But you are going to be hated on. You're going to be ridiculed. You are not going to be appreciated until they see things successful in their eyes. And some of them may never see that, and that's okay. You have to be true to what's in your heart and what you need to go after. And there's going to be people that don't see it. It's time to break off and break away. So this new immersion that is happening, woo, it's going to be great. These new leaders that are coming up, that are rising up, they are going to be the shift that we need to get us ready for when Christ returns. That's what's most important. It's not what handbag you have and the J's on your feet and the car you drive and the money in your bank account. Those are all like, cool, great. That's wonderful. But it doesn't matter at all, because you can't take that with you. So these new leaders are going to help you really dive into what matters, to realign your focus, because the world's going to try to just take you down with its destruction. But it's time to rise up and be like, no. I may be in the world, but I'm not of the world. And we're going to push through. And Lord, what do you say? I'm so excited. So if you've heard of a new leader emerging, kingdom leader, like, type their name below. I would love to be able to check out what they're about, maybe even have them on the pod. Love to be able to check that out. but it's such a refreshing feeling to know that new leadership is on the rise and it's coming. Get excited. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. It means the world to me that you would lean in, listen in, and be able to hear the value that's being shared on this show. Don't forget, if you love this episode, rate the show, leave me a review, be sure to share it with a friend, and don't forget to tag me on social media. I will definitely be giving you a shout out. Also, come say hi, drop in the DMs. I would love to be able to hear what stood out to you the most on the episode and if there's any topics that you would like to hear on the show. We'll see you next time.